when Clubhouse came along, I think I'm probably one of the few people who understood what the app was for.
Yeah.
As soon as I like the day I got it, I'm like, oh, this is what we were here for to do anyway, because what it then allowed me to do was have the conversations with the people I wanted to have the conversations with, because you already have the network.
Hi guys, welcome back to Amplified Voices. I hope that you're loving all of our episodes so far. Don't forget to like, subscribe to our channel, and comment and let us know who you want to see me interview next. Thank you. Hello and welcome to Amplified Voices, where we highlight Black voices around the world that are making an impact within their respective industries. My name is Debbie Alamru and I'm your host. Today, I am joined by the Jollof behind live events, the best things since Fufu. He's a Clubhouse shepherd, an organizer of the people, a bridge between the continent and the diaspora, a master curator who is all about building more community than The Sims. He is the founder of Afropolitan Group, an entertainment and live events company. Eche Emole, welcome to Amplified Voices, sir. How are you?
Thank you, Debbie. That was a really great introduction. I like it.
Good.
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you. Now, Eche, for those who may not know the face behind the brand, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where were you born? Where were you raised? What is your story?
Okay. Hey guys, my name is Eche Emole. I was born in Nigeria, West Africa, specifically Enugu, which is the east side of the country. I am Igbo. I stayed in Nigeria for about the first 15 years of my life before I moved to the US at 16. I'm born to two lovely parents, mom and dad. I have three siblings, two brothers and a sister. I'm the oldest, so I'm very used to responsibilities. Yeah, that's about it in a nutshell.
I love that. I don't know if you know this. I'm Ethiopian. I was born in the UK, but I spent the first 7 years of my life in Nigeria.
Really? Where in Nigeria?
I was in Lagos, Port Harcourt, and Warri.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you touched this. What were your parents doing in Nigeria?
My dad worked for Shell.
Oh, okay. My dad worked for Chevron, so we're oil kids. Oil kids out here. So we know what's so actually that's why we moved to the US. The Chevron's headquarters is here in Saramon. So,
I love that. Okay.
Yeah, so we're oil kids.
Yeah.
Oil kids know what's up.
I know your childhood already.
Yep, because we were always moving too. So you know the vibes. Yep.
Exactly. So Eche, how did you get your start in the entertainment industry?
So going back to the background, so my parents, we moved to the US. I finished up high school. I then go to college, San Jose State. San Jose State, I just wanted a bit of diversity because the high school I'd gone to, I was like the only Black kid. Like that was my situation. So the only Black kid in my high school class. And so I wanted a bit of diversity. So I told my parents the first Black person I see in any college tour, that's the school I'm going to. I don't need no extras, okay? So it happened to be, we were doing a tour of San Jose State. The first Black person I see happens to be Nigerian, and that was it. It was just done. Like, there was no other thing that you needed to know about the school. And so I transitioned to San Jose State. So when I got there, I guess I'd always wanted to build community because I didn't have a community in high school, right? So that need to like connect people led me to join like the clubs, right? Like the Nigerian Student Associations, the African Student Associations, the BSUs, all of that. And so I eventually came to be like an influential person in the clubs. And eventually I was like president of the club. And then at the time, I think Two-Face Idibia was coming to do a concert in California, and the promoters reached out to the schools, right? But reached out to me. I was like, hey, Eche, we would really like for you to push this to your students, sell tickets to the shows. We could give you a cut, like commission, whatever. And so I think now looking back, I think like they just do it because I'm a promoter, so I know what that looks like.
Right.
And so I ended up selling like 500 tickets.
Okay.
And they were mind blown because they had probably thought I could just do 25, right? So you end up pushing 500. That's a lot when you're thinking the venue is basically like maybe 700 plus capacity.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're like, wow, okay, cool. So Two-Face concert happens, it's a success. The next concert is P Square. And I think I ended up pushing about like 2,000 tickets for that. Right. And then they're like, yo, this guy, this guy's crazy out of here. So from that moment on, I became like a full on, like, in the entertainment industry. I can't even imagine how many concerts I've done now, maybe like at least 15 plus with different artists.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how I got started in the industry.
That's dope. So speaking of concerts then, do you remember the first live concert or event that you went to, and what was it?
First live event that I went to, I mean, it would probably be the Two-Face concert. Like, I always tell people, like, most of my concert experiences have usually come from the ones I've done. Like, but then the ones outside of those that I really appreciated, it's Beyonce, Jay-Z, of course.
Yes.
Justin Timberlake, Drake, like, those ones are up there. Yeah, I always wanted to go to the Michael Jackson one though, but you know, he didn't make it. Yeah.
So, Afropolitan Group is an entertainment and live events company that you founded. But for those who don't know Afropolitan, how would you describe it, and what was the inspiration behind starting that?
So we started off as a live events company, but we've transitioned into more, like we've evolved into more, right? What I would describe Afropolitan as of today is a community as a service company, right? So what we do, we don't just want to party with people, we want to go through life with you, right? So what are the other needs that you have across life that we could solve for, because we have the network within our community to help you solve for that? Is that accounting? Is that legal services? Is that a startup? Is that getting investors? That's what we're saying. It's like, we are a community as a service company, and when you plug into us, you plug into our network, into our community of networks, basically. The inspiration behind it was really diversity again, right? Like in the Bay Area, we're so diverse. Like you have the Ethiopians, Eritreans, like Nigerians, all we're just a melting pot of so many different diverse people. So it just made sense to create something that would act as an umbrella that could contract and expand as needed. So Afropolitan was the name.
I love that. So to date, what has been your proudest moment with Afropolitan?
Proudest moment, probably the year of return in Ghana. It was something that took about 3 years to execute. And there were a lot of like doubters, right? Like nobody understood what was going on. Was this going to happen? Was the crowd coming from? And I think as someone who understood the difference in markets. So if you're in Africa and you're thinking about, okay, where's your market? Because there's not enough disposable income across the board for people to fly in for to engage in experiences. So if you're a promoter over there, you are really limited to a very, very limited pool. I remember being over there, I'm like, why don't we just move the market? And then they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, just move the market from the US here, because there's a market in the US, just move them here. They're like, that would never happen. I'm like, well, we're gonna go find out, you know. And so we were able to do that and execute on that, and that's really been a highlight for sure.
Yeah, that was definitely a huge success.
Yep.
Now, you're both a Nigerian and a Black man living in America. So how do you balance your cultural identities?
So I think it goes back to, honestly, what happened was, what shaped me a lot, it was in high school. Because what happened was, when I moved to the US, I had no concept of Blackness. I was Nigerian. Everybody around me in Nigeria was Black, right? Like I'd never, this identity thing is not a problem. Maybe Igbo, whether it was Yoruba, whatever, cool. But there was no, oh, you're Black. So I moved to the US and I get placed in this whole white institution, and I'm the only Black kid. So the white kids looked at me as a representation of all Blackness. I didn't get to choose which Black I wanted to be. They didn't know the difference between Nigerian or Eritrean or African American. It was like, yo, you're Black. So being Black, it meant that they would come to me for everything Black. Hey, have you heard the newest song from Mr. Fab? Have you heard this from the East Coast? Have you heard this from the West Coast? Or have you heard this other song from the Caribbean? And obviously, being a teenager and you want to fit in, you have to go do all this research. And in doing the research, I came to fall in love with all the diverse Black cultures, right? And I think that's what allowed me to then connect across the board, because I'm someone who will actually go learn and have learned about the different diverse cultures. So it's not just throwing Afropolitan in the air and just leaving it at that. It's like, no, I'm someone who's traveled to these countries. I've been to Ethiopia, I've been to Kenya, I've been to Senegal. Like I will go to the same places that I'm trying to connect and bring people together. So going back to your question though, I don't necessarily have a conflict within myself. Like, I'm Nigerian, I'm Black, I'm also more than that, right? Because I also understand that these are also man-made constructs. So I don't feel encumbered by any of that. I'm just here to serve my community, and then that's it.
That's beautiful. I love that so much.
Yeah.
Now, last year, we were all closely following the End SARS movement, which is, a decentralized social movement and series of mass protests against the police brutality in Nigeria. How were you able to use your platform to raise awareness and help people and the organizers on the ground?
Yeah, so I think, again, it goes back to the whole community as a service thing, right? And you can't just stand idly by. So the End SARS movement starts. I knew about maybe a half of the members of like Feminist Co, but there are other groups as well on ground. And I'm someone who goes back and forth regularly back to Nigeria. So I'm really tapped into what's going on ground. And also, I also have a fintech background. So knowing how to make money, get money across, that's also something I'm good at finding and figuring out. So when it first happened, we were all in group chats. And I'm like, yo, the government is going to shut down that link eventually. So there was a link that was already out there. So what's the backstop to getting money to you guys without going through that link? So Afropolitan stepped in. I think we were able to raise about $20,000, I think so. And we were able to funnel it to them directly, right? So what that meant was the government was shutting down bank accounts. So you don't have to do P2P, which is peer-to-peer. And peer-to-peer was you're just sending money to individual accounts now, because you can't do the official accounts because the official accounts are frozen. So what we're able to do is set up a network that allowed us to funnel that efficiently to the Feminist Coalition, and we're able to sort that out. So, yeah.
Amazing. That's what it's all about, honestly.
Yeah, man. It was definitely a crazy 2 weeks, but
it's an accomplishment to be proud of. To be able to do that for Ethiopia is huge.
The Tigray crisis as well in Ethiopia. So we were also able to raise money through the Afropolitan Lounge on Clubhouse. I think they raised about $11,000 last I checked. But yeah, that was that. But again, I'm just saying it ties into what we were saying about the community as a service thing. Like, there's a need. Our community is willing to step in and also gather people together to focus on how to handle the issue.
Yeah, and actually, I have a lot of respect for how you use your platform in that sense by allowing them to have that platform to better inform and educate everyone, as well as to raise that money. So that's definitely incredible. I love that.
Yeah, I think the platform doesn't belong to any one person. I think that's what community is. I mean, community can be a business too. It doesn't always have to just focus on nonprofit situations. Like, our whole thing is a community is a business is a community, right? So it's how do you operate in that way and execute efficiently, decentralized too. So
Absolutely. Now, quarantine's been really difficult for all of us, especially with respect to being able to attend live events, right? Now, we've all had to kind of do this pivot to navigating this virtual space. And you, Eche, were unquestionably one of the first ones to dominate Clubhouse with the Afropolitan Lounge. So in your opinion, what are the biggest pros and cons to having to shift into these virtual spaces?
I think I don't necessarily see the cons. I think if you do events and you're already used to serving people, you're able to expand. Like, that's just a no-brainer. It just depends on whether you think you're supposed to be in a box or you're supposed to just like grow and evolve as you can. So I think honestly, what it came down to when COVID hit, obviously decimated the whole industry. No events for like the past year. It feels very rusty. But it was like, okay, how are you going to keep your brand relevant? Like, what's going to happen? I wasn't really a big fan of Zoom events because I felt that what would happen would people would go to work Monday to Friday on Zoom, and you tell them to come to Zoom on Friday and Saturday and Sunday. That's Zoom fatigue. So when that happened, I wasn't surprised. But the thing was, what's going to have staying power over time? And what we thought through was, okay, we need to go into media, but what's the low-hanging fruit for media? And we came to the assumption that podcast would be it, right? But then the question was, okay, I want to do a podcast, but what I really want to do is highlight this, similar to this sort of conversation, highlight the people who are Afropolitans, but really bridging that gap between the diaspora and the continent, right? So we always call those people, Afropolitans are people who live on that bridge, right? We straddle two sets of identities, we see both sides, we have multiple sets of awareness, languages, the whole shebang, right? Yeah. And so my question then, I was in San Francisco at the time. The lockdown was heavy. How are you going to get people to come over? I'm like, this is not the most optimized way, but I still want to do this podcast. But then Clubhouse comes along. And when Clubhouse came along, I think I probably one of the few people who understood what the app was for.
Yeah.
As soon as I like the day I got it, I'm like, oh, this is what we were here for to do anyway, because what it then allowed me to do was have the conversations with the people I wanted to have the conversations with, because you already have the network. The question now was, how do you get them into these same rooms? And I think that's what we're able to do across the board. And then we then launched our podcast on top of Clubhouse as well, right? So I think it just solved a lot of the problems. And the reason why this is so important is media is such a huge part of your industry as a company, right? And what I mean by that is every company now is a media company, whether they like it or not. It's only the ones who've realized it or they've not realized it, but you have to be your own media company. So you're either, I think the quote by biologist yesterday says, you either own your media corporation or you get owned by one, right? So no more going to give interviews and then you get misquoted. No, have your own podcast, have your own media, figure out your own distribution, and you can even scale more. Right. And I think that's what we're doing here with Afropolitan. So we're launching our podcast end of May. I think we've had about 11 guests so far, and that's just on the Nigerian African side of things. And then now we're going to focus on the diaspora. So we want to keep showing people what people are doing and building across the African diaspora, so yeah.
That's amazing. Congrats on all of it. Now,
thanks, man.
What is your favorite Clubhouse Afropolitan room and why?
Oh man, I think it's our encounters with Yoruba demons room.
I was about to say,
it is so funny, like, because I think it's just one of those rooms where you get to like see the duality of human beings, right? I think one of my favorite rooms was the guy comes in and says, hey, I've been a victim of a Yoruba demon. This is what she did to me. This is how I'm hurt. This is what life did to me. And then the next person up was like, oh, it's funny how you're over here talking about you're a victim of a Yoruba demon when you're my Yoruba demon, right? And it was just like the whole room exploded. Like it was just like, wait, what? And so it was just one of those things where the accountability factor is always intriguing to me, because anybody you're talking about can literally be in the room and they will raise their hands up and then come and have this conversation. So I think Clubhouse is dope for that, but it's also a great like learning opportunity too. Like I've gone to like learn from some of the best minds on the platform, connect with them, build relationships with people, even reconnect. I mean, I reconnected with my girl on there too. So it's like,
oh wow,
it's been a great app for at least me so far. I can't speak for other people, but yeah, man, it's been cool. It's been cool. Yeah.
Now, what does the future of Afropolitan look like?
So I think it just comes down to what we said about community as a service, right? How do you get to a point where the community is really the go-to source for a lot of services, right? So, and we give an example for the year of return. So in the year of return, what we did is we took about 150 people to Ghana. When they arrived in Ghana, we provided them with an airport shuttle to their hotel. Once they arrived at the hotel, they were handed an Afropolitan bag. In that bag included a local SIM card, local currency for people who had requested it, tickets to all the events happening, a shuttle pass to the events from the hotel as well that ran till like 3 a.m. And then I guess and all the other value-added services that we had packed into the package that they had paid for. And I think what we asked ourselves is, what if we could do more as a community? You don't have to stay in it. Could we provide you with a digital bank account? Can we provide you with a digital card? Can we provide you with health insurance, real estate opportunities, the whole shebang? And the reason we're saying that we don't have to be limited to parties is parties are a universal equalizer. You could be a VC person, you could be a blue collar person, all of you are gonna be in the same dance floor and partying it up. The question is, can we connect those people to their access and to those opportunities? And that's what we've been focused on executing on. So when you talk about the future, we're talking about Afropolitan communities around the world. We're talking about possibly even a country one day that's going to be called Afropolitan, but it's built on the cloud, right? And possibly one day an Afropolitan coin, decentralized. So that's the vision. That's the way we're planning this, and that's what we're looking to execute on. So yeah.
Wow, that's amazing, Eche. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed the interview as much as I did. I'm Debbie Alamru. See you next week.